Hello and welcome to the SMEFocus show powered by MTDCNC. I'm Mark Weymouth from the Sensor Specialist Plus Automation. I aim to carry on the great work this show has done over the last 200 episodes, championing the UK manufacturing sector and highlighting SMEs. My guest today is Adam Payne, who provides training and consultancy support to manufacturing businesses. Adam is very active on LinkedIn and provided help to me 5 years ago when I started to provide a good news post, so I guess you can blame Adam. Adam's also a fellow member of the Connex Portal networking community since its early days, and I imagine that in the almost 3 years since Adam last appeared on SMEFocus, 147 episodes ago, he's still not managed to become an internationally renowned guitarist. Hi, Adam. Welcome to SMEFocus.
Morning, Mark. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's a pleasure. Again.
Excellent, thanks.
I don't know about the guitarist thing either. I don't think I'll ever get there on that one.
Well, I can see it. It doesn't look like it's got any dust collecting on it in the background, so I'm assuming you at least practice.
Yeah, there's one there, and then I've got another one down there as well.
So you're blaming the tools then?
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't claim to share any abilities on the guitar, but we do share a history of a decade working in that crazy and fun world of automotive and aerospace tier one. So can I ask you to tell me a little bit more in the audience about your background, what first took you into manufacturing and some of those horrifying stories?
I was thinking about this the other night after I was talking to my dad, and to be fair, it's my dad. My dad is a chartered engineer by trade, apprentice trained Morris Cranes in Loughborough. I was apprentice trained at Brush, but we lived in Africa, and I was brought up in Africa, really from about the age of 4 right through to early teens. So probably be slightly illegal now. I was going around the copper furnaces, smelt furnaces with my dad at 5 and 6 years old. So seeing this pouring of copper spilling out everywhere, going into the engineering facilities on site in Africa, in Zambia. Always helping my dad build stuff. So it's always been a passion. So there was never any other career that I was going to go into. It was always going to be engineering because my heart has always been in there. So yeah, had some fantastic times in automotive and aerospace. Apprentice with Brush Shook Sidley in Loughborough and William Cotton, which was textile machining, and then went into construction and ARC, and then sort of like cut a long story short, I picked up a book and I think it was on Dutton. I think it was Dutton Engineering Blue Book, and it was all around lean and Kaizen, and this would be early 90s, very early 90s. And that also struck a chord with me, and I went down that route and worked with a gentleman that both me and you know is Bob Gibbon. And Bob trained me in the early days of sort of like theory constraints and applying theory constraints into some of the lean principles and breaking paradigms, and that has stuck with me now. And me and Bob, I was in my early 20s. Bob was divisional chief exec then with Kettering PLC. Me and Bob still talk now. So my dad, Bob, and a couple of others have had a very big influence on my approach with engineering and manufacturing. Yeah. And automotive days were fantastic. You know, probably one of the best careers. I think we've had that. The discussions are just, they're just a different world. That was for me. It was fantastic, though. It was brilliant.
I usually describe it as character forming, but I'm not necessarily claiming it was good characters it formed, but it just formed characters.
That's what I class it as, character building, but I don't know whether it would be. But yeah, phenomenal for me.
Okay, yeah. Interesting. So, I mean, molten metal, Brush, you've sort of some iconic images and some iconic brands, and a hell of a journey. And 2012, so going back now, you founded TCM UK Limited, so the consultancy that you have to help businesses sort of innovate, accelerate growth, reduce costs, and then a little bit later sort of expanded that into TCM UK 3D, have to make sure I get the names right, which is the online supply of 3D printed spare parts and upgrades and stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about those businesses, what took you into them, and how they differentiate? Why, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Why did you set them up?
Yeah, I think it was about 2011 for me. I was an executive within Doncaster's group, operation running one of the largest divisions, and also involved with the strategic execution, dissemination of what Dubai International Capital wanted then. And there were certain things around, different things that made me want to change a life point of view. One of them was my daughter and supporting my daughter, and also not seeing both my daughter and my son because of traveling here, there, and everywhere. So wanted to change. Decided to exit. An opportunity arose, and I decided to exit and set up TCM UK. Now, TCM UK is total cost management. Originally going way back to the automotive days, which I think you'll probably remember, we had total value management, I think it was, within Jaguar Land Rover, or Ford PAG Group, I think it was, originally kicked it off. And I was part of that team originally within Unipart, and dealing with that team and that project. And I just decided to go that route, strategic side, helping SMEs, businesses on the strategic side, right down to shop floor intervention and everything in between. So we do lean training, leadership training, coaching managers, as well as the strategic element. But I'm actually looking more now, that when I look back at it, more now on TCM UK Limited in more of the lean training. And that sort of like hits in with some of the industrial strategy side around that productivity element still, which we'll come on to. So I'm looking now actually just to just probably tweak it, just rotate the lens a little bit on TCM UK Limited. 3D, that came about messing about really. And I had a 3D printer up here, Richard, that was also the division commercial sales director for Doncaster's. He worked with me. He had a company called Aerostrat, and then we created TCM UK 3D. And we were actually producing parts, we're manufacturing parts for automotive, aftermarket automotive and aerospace. But we spotted a gap more on the online sales side, because we were doing upgrades and design upgrades, and so we stopped from the production side and manufactured the online upgrades and consumable items and things like that now. And so that's where that came out. So yeah, so one sort of like leveraged out of the other, and that's how it came about, because we were looking at layouts and things like that, and then I started printing 3D machines out and doing layouts on site with, and that's how it sort of like came about. And also we were involved with it at Doncaster's as well, and it seemed to hit. It was gaining momentum when we were delving into it. So each business, to be fair, has been leveraged out of the other one. Going through, which I think you're going to come on to with the others in a minute. But I don't know whether that answers your question. Well, you got any more questions on that? But yeah,
no, I think that did. As soon as you said total cost management, of course, it made me much easy for me to remember the order of the initials, and I wished I'd remembered that. But we discussed earlier, I'm feeling very tired today, so apologies. But yeah, total cost management and TQM took me back to some memories I'd rather forget. So
yeah, definitely.
So with your segue of one business leading to another, then that's the perfect segue through to New Way Growth, which says at the bottom of your screen, so something you're clearly proud of. So 2018, tell us about New Way Growth, and maybe segue on to Factory IQ, because they're similar sort of timescales, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Yeah. So New Way Growth again is sort of like leverage out of TCM UK, but that's altered slightly as well now. So TCM UK is totally focused on manufacturing. New Way Growth was applying. What happened was I got asked to help a business outside of manufacturing. It was a friend, and I started doing that with them in helping them sell their business on and move on from what they wanted to do. So we were applying the same sort of like strategic elements and operational elements, sales element, growth elements into their business. To sell on, and then with what I was doing in there, got approached by other people outside of manufacturing, then got into the marketing side. So in the end, I ended up creating New Way Growth. So that is predominantly sort of like very similar to TCM UK, but we do more of the smaller solopreneur right up to the bigger businesses. And we do have a couple of manufacturing people in there, but it's the marketing growth side that we concentrate on there. So troubleshooters from that. And Factory IQ, well, Factory IQ really, again, they've all been leveraged off of one or the other, which is probably the best way of doing it. Factory IQ, I go back to my days in automotive, where we talk about big data. Well, I was operating big data back in probably 97, albeit using Excel. It was either Excel or Lotus Notes, and there was no way I was using Lotus Notes. So we used Excel, and it was all around volume, tact, line balancing, OEE, first time yield, being able to marry all those up to get the operational performance. And I had the site running off of Excel, each of the cell, managing those elements, those variables. And that really where Factory IQ came into it, is I wanted something. I'd suffered consistently from an operational performance point of view, or operational management side of advanced production planning, getting data, real-time data. There was always something with an MRP or ERP system that was missing from an operational element. So the actual fundamental operational element. And I wanted that to be the focus, the Oracle, because if you are not getting stuff out the door, you are not generating revenue. So that's where Factory IQ came in. So it's most people call it an MES. Yeah, could class it as an MES, but we have the ability to develop the nuances with each business, because each business is individual, and that's where we have a fantastic success rate in the niche area. Digital operations, OEE, health and safety monitoring, then real-time monitoring, energy monitoring, and all manner of stuff now we're getting into. And now I'm looking at the AI integration into it as well. So again, yeah, it was just leveraged off of something that we'd been doing for years and using for years. I still use the Excel spreadsheets now at a very early stage with businesses, just to get them used to what you were looking at from an operational point of view. So yeah. That's Factory IQ New Way Growth. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So, I mean, as you were talking, I was thinking about still how incredibly powerful Excel is in sort of just describing things to people, than maybe seeing opportunities. And obviously, Factory IQ sort of takes that and dashboards it and makes it much more sort of nuanced and stuff. But if we think of our business, and if we were to think of the business being the UK, and historically this lack of strategy that maybe the UK government have had, we've seen our first budget for the new government, and lots and lots of talk about an increase in national insurance, and very little talk so far about anything else really. We've had a little bit of time to digest the budget. What do you see as some of the opportunities, or what's the message feeding through for manufacturing? I mean, to me, productivity is screaming headline, but maybe what do you see in sort of top tier and second tier headlines, opportunities from the budget?
I think there's obviously the budgets are always, or the budget side is always emotive. I think I tried to look at it with Andrea's post a few weeks back when we did the Ministry of Manufacturing. She put out the 12 sort of like opportunities that I looked at from when I looked at the industrial strategy, and productivity is one of those in particular. I think that we can really tackle. Now, I'll put a caveat on this. The industrial strategy for me is more like a wish list at the minute, so it needs a lot of fleshing out and a lot of bloody backbone and action that's coming into it. But there are opportunities in there. One of those is the productivity side. So even if we were to, and we're working on this with Andrew and Sam and a few others, even if to concentrate on the 75% sort of like productivity levels, the lower levels, and getting them up to the top 25% will have a massive impact onto the GDP. But when we talk about productivity, everybody's sort of like, I shouldn't say this because this is assumption, and I don't like to assume, but what we generally think of is the factory and the business. What we don't think of is the infrastructure. So, and the example for me on this one is, I went 8 miles in the week, and it took me, I think it was 53 minutes to go 8 miles in a car. That impacts productivity massively. So infrastructure, logistical infrastructure has a massive impact. So there's a whole host of different stuff that's got that I look at from a productivity point of view. So yes, there's automation, yes, there's robots and things like that, but there's also the infrastructure of how we move things about and how we get the stuff over. That has a massive impact on productivity as well. But so there are opportunities there. They've got to be fleshed out, and it'll bring me on to probably one a little bit later, where I do think that this is where we do have an opportunity to change stuff. The other one for me is probably skills as well. We know that the skills side, there's a massive skills gap. I mean, I sat in on some FSB stuff and roundtables I was asked to do probably a year and a half ago now. And I think it was Andrew's. I love Andrew's idea. I think it was same as R&D tax was. I think a training and development tax side thing, which I think is superb. The other thing that I like to see, which I had heard rumblings about that they were looking at, but I think that was the Conservative government, was was saying strategically we need to look around what's happening within our regional areas and where the future development is going from an economic point of view, and the courses need to be aligned to that future economic development for the universities and the colleges and the schools. So we're actually creating the skills that are needed in those areas strategically. And I do think they were looking, or had heard rumors they were looking about that. So now, whether that is still the same, in my opinion, that still should be the same. That should be the strategic sort of like side, bringing it down into the tactical element. Then you've got AI and things like that. I mean, we've been delving into AI for a fair few years, and that's going to have a big impact on it. It's not just copywriting, because everybody's using it, for now, for copy and marketing and things like that. There's so much more involved with that. And then the other one is, which we'll come on to, is the regulatory side. I think getting some of that out. So they're all big opportunities there, getting some of that rid of some of that red tape. But then the other one is these local industrial strategy built into the regional areas. That's where we need to have the input from SMEs, which leads us on to that key one for me. We've got to be in the room on that one. When I was saying this at a manufacturing event earlier this week. So if they do disseminate this down, because that's how I would like to see it from a strategic point of view, the industrial element is cascaded, disseminated down into tactical, sort of like by region, tactical operational areas. SMEs, we have now the opportunity to be in the room to hold these people accountable and to hear our voice. And the thing for me is we've got to be pushing for that. And that's across sectors for me, not just manufacturing, but we need to be in that room with those local industrial strategy, sort of like committees or whatever they're going to call it. For me, that's the big one.
We've almost got a defining minute. I think we've almost got a defining moment, particularly for SMEs, because we're members of the Confederation of British Metal Forming, and they're calling for input, which they're going to pass up. Make UK is calling for some input. But if I look at the industrial strategy itself, it's just talking about only a few aspects of what I consider to be manufacturing. And there's a real chance that going forward, an industrial strategy, government policy may only be targeted on a couple of subsectors of industry and influenced by those. I think there is this rare opportunity at the minute for people, hopefully, who are watching this, people that we try and reach out to all the time on LinkedIn, to actually speak now, because I feel they may not be listened to for the next 5-year period if they don't take this opportunity. We can't just passively sit back and then complain.
Yeah, that's the key for me, is that I would say, I mean, I'd be swearing if I could. The thing for me is, don't sit back. You've got to be in there. You've got to be with it. So you've got to be voicing, and you know, whether that as a collective with people or with industries. I've had this thing, bone of contention for me for many years, is that we would have far more power if we were all aligned, all the federations, all of the organizations, the memberships around, let's say, the industrial strategy. You bring in the unions with that as well, aligned with what's trying to be done, and the impact it will have, the positive impact it will have back in. You have a far more powerful voice. At the minute, for me, we are too splintered, and that's why it is not working. So these local, this is where I can see the opportunity with these local. If it works out to how I'm thinking it's going to work out, if not, we need to be able to steer it so it does work that out and have the power to do that. That's where I can see that we can have a real big impact, but we've got to be in the room. So there's no just sitting back on your hands and twiddling your thumbs. You've got to be shouting about it and be doing something about it. You know, that's just me from our side.
Yeah,
and that's what we were working on with Andrew as well, because we're already looking at this campaign around it, which we've been involved with and things. So how we can actually market that to the government and what we can do around it.
I think the topic of local strategies, local consideration, local lobbying is an interesting one, because historically we all complain about the postcode lottery and we don't really know what resources are available in our region. But I've spent a lot of my life working with German companies, German contacts and stuff, and you look, and Germany is quite decentralized. Obviously it's much bigger, but they have a lot of local power and a lot of local sort of connections and political involvement even, and the unions are very active, and this sort of coalition between owners, unions, trade bodies, local areas are very strong. I do feel we've probably missed a trick to not think, you know, if it was a business, we would think of what is our local advantage and tailor ourselves to that. So
yeah, absolutely.
I find it interesting you mentioned that.
Absolutely. I think you know, we unions, all of us, SMEs, bigger business, everything, we are all wanting the same. There's no two ways about it. Can't say that we're not, but we're all wanting the same thing, which is that social, economic, environmental impact. So we need to be aligned. Whilst you're divided, you are nothing, as we know that from a war point of view. So we need to be the voice. Yeah.
I think my question was to ask you what the opportunities you saw, and I'd probably chirp in an opportunity. I've just been at a trade show. Europe is struggling. Certainly Germany, some of the countries less so, but at the minute there's some real concerns going on, and I think therefore it presents the UK with a real opportunity. We're not in the pain that they're in at the minute, so they may stagnate. It does give the UK hopefully an opportunity to jump forward a little bit and get an advantage, because I always believe that as countries we do compete, and this is an opportunity for the UK to jump a little bit ahead.
Yeah, and the thing is it's in our hands to either make it a success or a failure. And in some respects we've failed. We've exited Brexit. That's done and dusted. That then enables us from opportunities point of view, and like you were saying, there's Europe, a lot of it is from a growth level is struggling, but outside of that there are areas that are massively growing, and we have that opportunity. What we need is a government that is positive to that, to help make those opportunities a success.
Okay. Changing tack a little bit and looking at the more achievable or the more certain to happen, rather than what we wish that politically might happen. Tell me a little bit about what 2025 has in store for you and your businesses. What are your objectives and hopes for the next 12 months?
I think from a personal perspective, so looking from a self-interest point of view, well, it's not a self-interest point of view because my why is, which not many people know, there's a few people know, and perhaps I should say it more, is the success of our communities will come from the businesses that thrive within it. So the more businesses that we can help shift that high growth, high value gateway, the better both socially and economically we'll be. And that's what all the businesses are focused on, is being able to support businesses from a growth point of view, a performance productivity point of view, just being able to improve, be better today than you were yesterday, plan to be better tomorrow than you are today, sort of thing. So for us, it'll be more of the same, just supporting SMEs, whether that's manufacturing or outside of manufacturing, and keep the UK innovation and value and of where it should be in pushing it, but really supporting the SME base along that. So yeah, just more of the same of what we're doing, and potentially expanding out a bit. But I am quite happy as I am, to be fair, as we are. But just keep doing what we're doing.
And do you feel that there's a fifth business idea spinning away, about to launch onto the world? Are you coming to solve AI and LinkedIn for us all, or?
Yeah, no, I've got loads. I've got a list. I obviously journal. I've got loads, and I have a particular section in my journal which is future ideas. Every week, there's just the list there, and every now and again I do look through and think, oh yeah, potentially. So yeah, there's always something in the back of my head.
Recording.
Yeah, there's always something on the go, without a doubt.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for that, Adam. And I think we managed to wrap up with some positivity, which is good to hear. I think what we all need. So I will wrap up the episode with the usual sort of request that if anybody would like to get in touch with the show with a comment, a suggestion, or most importantly, if you'd like to appear on a future episode, please email us at inquiries@mtdcnc.com or contact myself, Stuart Whitehead, or Joe Reynolds. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. From me, Mark Weymouth, Plus Automation. Cheers. Have fun.